no, I was going to ask about Gillibrand. I actually think Gillibrand did a pretty fantastic job talking about, the role of women in the military. I mean, look, I got to be honest. At this moment, when the military is having an incredibly difficult time recruiting, at a time when America is still struggling with obesity, beggars can't be choosers. And if you have women who are fit enough, who are able to pass that fitness test in order to be in combat roles, I think it's fair to ask Pete Hegseth why he has an issue with women being included in said combat roles.
In this clip from the Megyn Kelly show, we have Anna Kasparian and Megyn Kelly having a conversation that no one saw coming. And guess what? Anna channeled some serious MAGA vibes in this one. Yes, the same Anna Kasparian who's been a progressive firebrand for years. And Megyn Kelly on her own show ended up agreeing with some points that sound straight out of a conservative playbook. So without spoiling, let's get into this clip where I'll be giving you my unfiltered take.
It's a fair question. No, so I will answer. I actually didn't really have a problem with the questions themselves that she asked. I didn't really agree with the premise, because I do understand what Pete's position has been, having listened to it a long, long time for many, many years. It's not about women in general. It is about, we just can't lower standards. And her response, which was, we haven't. Like, give me specific examples where we have. That was totally fair game. It was a good response. And he had an answer to it. But what I objected to with her was the nature of the delivery, the hysterics. She sounded... I cringe when our fellow women who make their way into these, halls of power behave like the hysterical women many men still believe they always are. Like, would you keep it together for the love of God? Like, she was shouting. I was in the room and she was like, what you said is hurtful. It's mean. Her facial expressions looked like she was losing it. She looked overly emotional, playing right to stereotype.
Okay, Megyn, savage much? But she is not wrong. If you're trying to project strength, losing your cool is the worst thing you can do. Imagine being a coach screaming and flailing on the sidelines. Does anyone take them seriously? No. And the same goes here. If you want to land a solid argument, keep your composure. Instead, we've got these senators acting like TikTok influencers mid-drama. And you know what's ironic? They think this passion is inspiring, but most people just cringe. Politics is already a mess, and the last thing we need is emotional outburst masquerading as leadership.
And it was unbecoming. And then you went down the line, it just got worse. She was the best of the Democrats, but they just got worse. I mean, Hirono was a nightmare. Tammy Duckworth, who you'd think would have been the most composed, an actual soldier who'd been in war. No, she wasn't. So a lot of what I objected to was you don't hear men behaving like that. And we really need to be a little bit more professional. You can punch as hard as you want to with the rhetoric and the words, but keep your tone, the nasal nature of the comments, the facial expressions, the near tears look that the unbotoxed eyebrows will allow. Those are bad.
Yeah, look, I think a lot of these hearings end up being performances. It's really political theater.
100%.
And at the moment,
good point.
Right now for Democrats, it's nothing but political theater, because all you need is a simple majority in the Senate to, confirm these Trump nominees. And so they're using this as a moment to kind of do their own political virtue signaling to their base. And so I understand that.
Exactly. It is all theater, folks. The hearings aren't about solving problems. They are about creating viral clips for social media. Democrats are the worst offenders right now, but let's also be real, Republicans have their moments too. This isn't governing, it's a clout chase. They know their base eats it up, so instead of addressing real issues, they play to the cameras. And here's the funny part. The people they're supposedly fighting for, they see right through it. This isn't WWE. Your job is to legislate, not entertain. You guys can let me know if you agree down in the comments.
And look, what you're saying is really subjective. Some women are super into it. Some people are really into seeing a strong fighter, especially a woman in the Senate. Others are turned off by it. So I totally hear what you're saying, but I do think that Gillibrand asked some pretty good questions. So we'll see what happens.
Anna's right, just real quick, Megyn. Yeah, Anna makes a great point here. I didn't find it offensive for any of those other reasons. I found it offensive as a purported professional communicator, because for me, I couldn't figure out who the audience was that was persuadable or who they were seeking to mobilize beyond their most active base. And I think that's That's the big problem, right? And I think that's consistent with Anna's assessment of it too, which is that if you're only communicating to this already converted part of your party, what's the real political objective here? And if the Democratic Party has to find a way to get back with Latino voters, get back its strength with working class voters, get back its strength with outside of the urban areas and more suburban and rural areas, and build up that support given what happened in 2024.
None of whom is watching this.
I mean, this is the Achilles heel of the Democratic Party. They are stuck in their echo chamber, preaching to people who already agree with them. How is that strategy? If your goal is to win elections, you need to reach the middle. Independents, moderates, people who don't wake up every day checking MSNBC. But nope, they double down on talking points that alienate half the country. It's like running a restaurant that only serves kale salads. You might get a niche audience, but don't complain when most people walk past your door.
None of them are watching it, but they are seeing the atomized version of it all. And if it's not focused in a way that really sort of motivates them to care, motivates them to sort of feel that they have a stake in it, and it's only Matsi Hirono and Kirsten Gillibrand or Sheldon Whitehouse, very harsh, active liberal voices inside the party berating, nominees who the thing I think about that's strongest about Hegseth's nomination is, and I think there's an entire discussion we should have about how he brought it back, how he resuscitated it, because it was hanging on a thread there for a while. But it's that he wants to bring an infantry perspective to national security decision making, and to the posture of the armed services. And there is a focus on making sure that the president's vision is executed and implemented, despite what some of the military brass who would disagree. However you fall on that, that's a really good, strong place to argue, rather than some of the topics that they choose to fight on, which were very specifically tailored to an already converted liberal Democratic base.
Yeah, you cheated on your wives. Okay. I want to say this, having practiced law for many years and sat in the Supreme Court as a correspondent for 3, they should be more like the Supreme Court justices, who disagree vehemently, but it's almost never, 1% of the time, maybe, if that, maybe not even, maybe I'm being ungenerous, do you ever hear hysterics from the left or the right, from the women or the men. The women on this U.S. Supreme Court, far left though they may be, Sotomayor, Brown, Jackson, they don't behave that way. They maintain their composure and their dignity, and they can slice and dice with the best of them.
Imagine that, grown adults behaving like professionals. The Supreme Court may have its issues, but you don't see Clarence Thomas flipping tables on Sonia Stanimore shouting over Ketanji Brown Jackson. They argue, they debate, but they keep it together. Meanwhile, in the Senate, we've got people yelling like it's Black Friday at Walmart. If you want to be taken seriously, act like it. This isn't rocket science. Dignity and discipline go a long way. But hey, dignity doesn't get retweets, does it?
And I realize they have a different audience they're trying to persuade, which is most of the righties down the way. But and they're, to your point, Anna, these women were trying to get sound bites that would be energetic or motivating or soothing in some way to their base. But
to make headlines,
I think
too.
Womankind suffers when they behave like the hysterical 50s housewives who men would rush to drug up when they behave that way. Okay, wait.
Gosh.
Let's move on because I want to play you another soundbite. Where did it go? Number 4. This is Adam Schiff and Pam Bondi.
You have the independence to say that. You have the gravitas, the stature, the intestinal fortitude to say, Donald Trump, you lost the 2020 election. Can you tell us that here today?
Senator, what I can tell you is I will never play politics. You're trying to engage me in a gotcha. I won't do it. I won't play politics with any ongoing investigation.
So let me ask you another.
Like you did, leaking your colleague Devin Nunes's memo.
All right, Anna. What I see there is
go ahead.
A page out of the Kayleigh McEnany book. Remember when Trump went through all these press secretaries and he settled on Kayleigh McEnany, who was young, like sort of an ingenue. recently out of Harvard Law and had spent some time at CNN. And she got up there and turned the tables inside that press briefing room where she would attack the press. And Republicans hate the press. So it was absolutely risk-free for her. And it worked. It worked really well. Trump loved it. Republicans enjoyed it. People started watching the briefings again. I'm seeing this pattern now with Bondi, a little bit with Pete. They've been nice to Marco Rubio, but this is an effective tactic that, most importantly, I think the boss enjoys.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I'm sure if Trump was watching, he absolutely loved the way she handled the confirmation hearing yesterday. But I will say this. Look, I think she did a good job in terms of optics for sure. I wish that the Senate confirmation hearings were less about the optics and politics and more about the records of these individuals. And so I would have preferred that she just said Biden won the 2020 election. That way it would take the one and only question away from the Democrats. Well, she said Biden is the president.
She said he's president.
Exactly. And so that allowed for the Democrats to continue asking the same boring question over and over and over and over again. And I would have loved for them to delve into her record in Florida, right? I want to learn more about her. I'm sure the American people want to learn more about her. But honestly, at this point, the Democratic Party has one speed and one speed only. And I'm sure it was aggravating for her as well to be asked the exact same question over and over again.
This is spot on. The Democratic Party is like a car stuck in first gear. They've got one message: orange man bad, and they hit it over and over again. Meanwhile, Republicans are out here talking about the economy, school choice, and national security. Love them or hate them, at least they've got a diverse playbook. If Democrats don't expand their focus, they're going to lose more than just elections. They're going to lose relevance. And honestly, who's surprised? If your strategy is pandering to Twitter activists, you're already behind. Of course, I would love to hear your guys' thoughts. Let me know your thoughts down in the comments below on all of these points made, whether you disagree or agree or any thoughts at all. Also, be sure to give us a like and subscribe, and we'll see you guys in the next one.